Well, our next topic, I think it'll be relevant to all of us because we all have some kind of banking cards, a bank account, and we will be talking about banking security. We've learned that we should not give the code, CVC codes, to scammers, and although sometimes it happens. And most importantly, very few of us understand what is happening on the side of banks. Like, what do they do in this kind of black box, which we enter the numbers of our cards and codes and in our data? How does it work, and where is this like a red line of responsibility between bank and a client? And this will be the topic, Security Tech League of Wildberries Bank. Aleksandr Simonov.
Привет, лужники!
Hello, Luzhniki.
Да, я сегодня вам расскажу, как банки защищают деньги и почему, собственно, это надо делать.
Hey guys, today I'm going to tell you how banks protect their money. I'm the tech lead of safety and security in the Wildberries Bank. And anticipating your questions, yes, Wildberries also have a bank. And this is just a bank, just as like any other company. It's like another blue company. I'm also teaching at the Information Protection Department in the Baumansk University. Why I've chosen this topic for my presentation? Like, what's usually happening? People lose their money, like a client may lose their money, and they do not know who is to blame. Have I done something wrong? And maybe it's a bank's fault. Like, where is the limit of my responsibility? What banks is responsible for, and what I'm responsible for? So this will be the theme of my presentation. And first of all, let's talk about the principles, the main ideas of payments, and then I'll give you some examples of attacks and attackers. And I'll tell you about the main principles and approaches in information security when it comes to banks. I also want to give you a couple examples of how to implement those principles. Let's begin with payments and remittances. You know, right now, I guess the most popular payments are, first of all, paying by your card. We all have cards, and also payment by the rapid payment system, RPS. Now, how do you pay on the internet? You go to any online store, online shop, you choose some merchandise, you put it in your basket, and then you press pay, and your inquiry flies into an operator bank, which is serving your online shop. So this operator bank gives you certain online form where you punch in your debit or credit card data, and through the payment system MIR, it communicates with your banks where you have your account and your money. And then your bank is sending you confirmation. You get confirmation, all is well, the money has been sent. And speaking about rapid payment system, you simply scan QR code in an online store, and you select a mobile bank where you want to pay it. You do this payment, confirm it, all is good, money has been withdrawn. In this whole structure, where hackers come and how do they try to attack? I mean, the main goals for them are two goals. It's the client and the bank. So we will be today speaking about this type of attacks. We'll begin with attacks on banks. Let's take several examples. And I'll begin with the most complex, or I guess most difficult or standard vulnerability of an application. What is such a vulnerability and how do hackers act? They go into online bank. Then they exploit this vulnerability. For example, they counterfeit with a certain program inquiries, like an inquiry to the bank, and change an account from your account to his or her account. So if you do not block this vulnerability, the bank will think that it's you're trying to wire money, and bank will wire money on your behalf. How can you defend yourself, or how banks defend themselves from such a vulnerability as app vulnerability? First of all, it's like approach of implementing a safe development principle. It's kind of complex. It's not as easy as it seems. I'm trying to simplify it, of course. But when you build an application or when you build some sort of a banking system, first of all, we build a set of expectations and requirements. What it should be, how should it work, and how should it look, its good and bad, and what kind of features. We also include the information security requirements into this development. On the stage of system design, when architects are thinking, how can we build it in such a way that it would be also fast, you develop a threat model. I mean, information security officers are checking what kind of attack vectors could be with attackers, how those evil guys may be thinking, to anticipate it and to put defenses in certain locations. Then, on the stage of developments, when coders are writing code, all this code is being analyzed. I mean, it's automated, and also those pros in security development are checking the code and giving their feedback. And when the whole system is being written and ready, and the system is ready to go live, before putting it in production, you do the so-called pen testing, that is penetration testing. You do an attack modeling onto this system to see whether the system is protected and whether it's maybe a subject to hacking. One example could be sending like a blueprint or a print of an application. Whenever you do the first installation, you always get some kind of print of this app, like a fingerprint. It's unique. And last, an inquiry from the other phone along with yours could be sent. There's always this like unique fingerprint of an app is being sent. So the banking server is comparing the fingerprint of when you made just the first entry or installation with the one which is being sent like today. And this is how we can avoid this attack. And also, I would say it's quite a well-known way of protecting yourself is confirming an operation. Usually, if it's a suspectful kind of operation, suspicious, for example, you've never sent money to the city of Magadan, you don't have anybody, you've never sent money there, and you all of a sudden decided to move like a couple $1,000, even though you do not have that much money. The bank has mathematical models which identify, does it look like you or it doesn't look like you. If this operation doesn't sound like you, your like regular activities, the bank may send you a push notification, like, can you confirm, is it you or not? You've never done this before. And if it is still you put the TP code and the money will be transferred. Okay. So much for the apps. What if we get a hacker inside of the bank? Like, why do you need to break into a bank when you can simply get employed by the bank and do all the things from inside the bank? You don't have to look for vulnerabilities, right? Try to break in. You simply can become like a bank teller, push a couple of buttons, and it's all cool, and you can get tons of money transferred. What this kind of evil hacker could be? They have legitimate credentials, they are part of the banking system, and they do remittances on behalf of your name or just from your account, transferring money to somebody else's account. And they think, okay, you have too much money, and I don't have as much. Why not? Why not? Equality for everyone. How can we protect ourselves from such an intruder who is inside of the bank? There is a second-hand principle. implying
есть контролер,
that we have a controller and we have an operator. So operator is the one, like on one hand, he or she only creates a certain banking wire or transaction. But to execute it, you need a totally different person with different credentials. Usually, it's also they also use cryptographic devices so that they would be able to approve this transaction.
устроившись операционистом, ну,
So you cannot do this simply if you're a bank teller, like being able to wire the money.
другой пример.
Another example, when a hacker is penetrating into an infrastructure. We've seen a couple of examples when we have a vulnerability in the app and somebody in-house perpetrator. What if this perpetrator will come from the external perimeter? For example, they find on a public server available on the internet some kind of vulnerability, which would be typical, widespread, no examples. And then they exploit it and compromise a public server. Eventually, one after another, moving from server to server, they're compromising bank service and get into the banking system. And this is how they can do whatever they want, all the way to encrypting data. In case of a ransom attack. If they do penetration from an internal perimeter, when such an attacker may have an accomplice, and this accomplice may be working in a bank, and he or she is helping them to get connected to the bank. This could be like a mobile modem connected to their laptop, or they could bring with them like a hacker's laptop and connect it to the banking network. And so they compromise the first host, and then moving in server by server, they get into the banking system. The same principle like before. Now, what do you do in this case, and what do banks do to avoid it? How do they protect themselves? The first principle is multi-tiered protection. Multi-tier. So when we protect information on each level of abstraction on our info system. What does it mean? For example, if it is a physical safety, we build the access. You have the CCTV, you have the security guards. If it's access control, we delineate the power and access. Like anyone cannot simply come enter into all the system for some reason, and they're given only a certain level of access. On the level of network, we also split up, or we segment the networks into different kind of sectors, depending on the level of criticality, and also on the level of an app. This would be safe development, and if it's a critical data, we also encrypt them. One example of this multi-tier protection would be so-called DMV, Demilitarized Zone, DMS. What do you mean, like on the... A hacker is getting to a public server, and then they are moving into the bank or alone. If we do the DMZ, we take this a public server which has been compromised. We separate it by a firewall, for example, from an internal network. And by doing this, we create so-called like a bottleneck through which those perpetrators will find it very difficult to move on and get into the system. Another is a device control. I think it's very obvious. You cannot plug into any external devices like a flash drive. If it is not registered, you cannot plug it in. The same may be happen with your laptop. You simply cannot connect into a socket, power grid, and work with somebody else's laptop. There is also the so-called Security Operations Center, SOC. This is a specialized guys who are 24/7 are watching what users are doing. They're always monitoring some kind of suspicious network activity, tracing anomalies, and in case if something happens, some suspicious events are taking place, they do react very quickly and disconnect. Well, basically, they have their own kind of playbooks and their own ways of actions of how to respond to an incident. Even if a perpetrator is inside and has been in the system, they're going to make noise. like we've heard in one of the presentations, they're going to be seen and be stopped.
Атаки с помощью социальной инженерии.
Next, social engineering attacks. We've been speaking about technical attacks, like what can a attacker do if they have an access or if they find a vulnerability. What if vulnerability is a human?
Подмена личности.
That is, we work with identity theft. What do they do in this case? They find some information about you in open sources, call to your call center and say, hey, that's me. They give all the information, my marriage and kids and where I was born, how many years, and all these parameters.
Специалиста колл-центра перевести.
And then they ask the call center, person to transfer money. If it's going to go through, your money will be transferred by this social engineering attack.
Социальной инженерии.
How do we protect ourselves from this kind of attack?
Наверное, более продвинутая это голосовая биометрическая аутентификация.
You can do voice and biometric identification.
Нельзя позвонить чужим голосом.
You cannot just call with somebody else's voice and ask them to wire the money. And secondly, this will be like a one-time password. Like on the right, a cat, get a code, and if needed, you tell this code to a call center person. Summing up about the banking attacks, friends, these are not your problems. All that we have been describing, its bank is doing that. They have resources, they have their own obligations. It's mandatory for them. They have to do it, doesn't matter how difficult it may be. In case of these kind of attacks, and if your money are gone, you may be confident that this money, supposedly there, because the bank have to compensate these amounts for you. However, it is not that simple. Because the banking problems, are done, but now the client's problems begin. That is your problems. And this is where you gotta be careful. Like, what's a typical scam on the phone? Phone scammers, like some kind of deputy CEO is calling you, asking to transfer money, and you think something, oh, it's amazing, and you've made this kind of payment. And you'll ask me, how about anti-fraud systems? They gotta work, they gotta do and prevent. Yes, anti-fraud systems, they do work, but they do not always save. If you really want to transfer money, no one will stop you. And
говорить о том, что, может быть, вы в сговоре, да?
Like maybe you have a collusion with this perpetrator. Maybe you are one team and you say, like, hey, you cheat me, I'll send you the money, and then I'll tell the bank, hey, I've been robbed, somebody cheated on me.
Другой пример.
Another example of client attacks would be installing non-legitimate applications. For example, usually this is how you communicate with the bank. This would be the healthy communication with the bank. Like we communicate with the mobile app, and mobile app is communicating with the bank, and the traffic is going back and forth. It's all encrypted, no problems. And if you are installing like a fake mobile app, somebody advised you this app, somewhere on the forum, like a cool app, design is awesome, amazing, all the cats and stars, you install it, in this case, between you and the bank. There is a guy, there is a hacker, man in the middle, MITM type of attack. And all the traffic, all of your inquiries are going through this attacker. They may change the data, modified, and instead of wiring dollars and also doing OTP code, one-time password, you are transferring this money, who knows who. And this is how it looks. The same with the phishing website. When you're installing like a number of your cards, thinking that this is the operator, but this is a fake site. In the worst case scenario, this is what it may look like. Give me a second. This is what it may look like. See, you have some kind of phishing website where you put in all the data, your card, CVC code, and then the perpetrators, they capture it, they fake your inquiry, and instead of, I don't know, buying some groceries, you are buying something else for $1,000, compromising your phone and your card. It is yet another client's problem, because like you can see on the picture on the left, very often we are carrying our cards like that with our phones. And I want to say that those stickers, they're different because there is no number. But if you do like certain actions, if you have certain devices, you can read number of the card from a sticker. It is not encrypted, is not protected. You just apply it and you read all the information, also number of the card. And then what do? The attackers, they have your number and they simply turn on their computer, or maybe like computer club. They enter your card number, you get a one-time password to your phone because you've lost it, right? And you have, like, this code is unblocked, on unlocked screen. That is, you haven't locked the content of a push notification with unlocked screen. And so they do not even have to unblock your phone to be able to see those 6 numbers on the one-time password. So you can get into the bank and you can do certain operations. And again, do good, don't do bad. And summing up my presentation, there are some your problems. Bank is not responsible for that. Do not give any info to the scammers. They are not calling you to tell you something good. Download only legitimate and official software. Official distributors, official websites, you gotta double-check them. You always have to see what are you downloading. Do not enter your card data in wrong places, or get virtual cards for internet payments, like a virtual card. Even if there'll be investigation, it will be easier to understand where you were entering this card, and quite possibly you will help in the future to those investigators to get money back to you. And also hide contents of your push notification, at least in the apps. If you're not afraid that with a locked screen somebody will read your Telegram channel, but at least hide it from, or in the model banks. We also have a Balance Pay. It's a legitimate application using this QR code. And this is our Wildberries Bank developing this. And also, we are teaching people how to defend banks, how to do secure finances in the Bauman University. We have our own stand. Come join us and get additional info. I'm done. Thank you.
Александр, спасибо вам. И у меня такой вопрос.
Alexander, thank you so much. And I have a question. When Apple Pay first came onto the Russian market, the company reps were saying that this kind of payments through their token would be even safer than paying by the banking card. What do we have now? MirPay, maybe rapid payment system. Is that safer than paying by the card? I think so, yes, I think so. It's even better than if you take a physical card out, or you carry your card in the back of your pocket, or in the case of your smartphone. Of course, it's better. Thank you. We're going to follow your advice. Bye-bye. Have a good day.